Consider the media bias we're looking at, ladies and gentlemen. Right now, it's so significant. We get spoon-fed this bias every single day from the likes of MSNBC, typically CNN, although I've argued that they seem to have understood which way the wind is blowing, and they suddenly seem to finally be showing the other side of that Stormy Daniels situation. But there's a ton of media bias out there. It is so rampant. You've got people from the administration all now working in the media. I mean, at ABC News, owned by Disney, you have George Stephanopoulos. We know how biased Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, and the rest of them over there on The View are. And they never actually worked in the administration. But over at MSNBC, there's a woman who now has a show. You know, maybe that's how they get rid of Karine Jean-Pierre. They promise her a show on one of these networks. Anyway, Jen Psaki, a.k.a. Peppermint Patty. I know that's not very nice of me, especially because my studio lights are making my hair look a little bit red these days. But Peppermint Patty, she has a whole show to herself. She's absolutely terrible on television and doesn't really have an original thought in her head. It's all just talking points, you see. This was her job. She's continuing to do her job, and now she gets paid for it much more handsomely than she did in the White House. So she has a new theory. A wild new theory on why it is that any Republican would ever support Donald Trump. I mean, forget the fact that the guy had the best policy. I'm telling you, median incomes, the highest in some 50 years under Donald Trump, because he had smart people actually running economic policy, not guys like Jared Bernstein, who went to Manhattan School of Music and then continued on to get a degree in social work. I mean, he doesn't know anything about business or the economy at all. He's not even an economist. Anyway, Trump had smart people there running. I mean, my former boss, for example, was head of the National Economic Council Advisors at Goldman Sachs. He ran fixed income at Goldman Sachs. It would be Gary Cohn. That's who Trump picks. But no, we got the music major. Nothing against music majors, but you know, he didn't do anything besides that. Music major in sociology. Not even yeah, I guess he was a social worker. Wasn't even sociology. He was a social worker. That is who you have running economic policy there in the Biden White House. So yeah, there's a lot of bias out there. Jen Psaki, now with her own show, woohoo, on MSNBC, had this comment about why some Republicans are supporting Donald Trump. And it's bonkers, but you got to hear it.
Far be it from me to put you in Bill Barr's shoes or anyone else's, but why? Why? We know why Senator Tim Scott is embarrassing himself on TV every day. He wants to be vice president. We know. But to your point about Mitch McConnell or Bill Barr or any of these people, why? Is it just to be close to power? They believe Donald Trump's going to get reelected. What is it?
I think there's two categories. I mean, there's obviously the Tim Scott category, as you said. That's embarrassing to watch. Cringy. I've watched it many times. I think many of them want to be close to power. They also assume or have this thought in their mind that maybe Donald Trump will go away. Maybe he'll go to jail. Maybe he will die, not to be too morbid, but maybe, I mean, he's not a young man. Who knows what's in their minds? They think maybe I will be behind the Oval Office. Maybe I will be in the Oval Office. The other category is the one you mentioned, of course, of all of these people. Bill Barr also, that guy's not going to be in government again. To me, those are people who are fearful of the mob coming out against them, fearful of the pro-Trump mob, the MAGA mob. Threats is a real thing, as you all have discussed frequently on Morning Joe, but they're fearful of that group. They're fearful of people who are his supporters. Maybe there's some of them are in the business community, perhaps, but more the mob out there. I understand that, but you know what? There are people who are. Sarah Matthews was a deputy press secretary in the White House. She has said, I don't agree with Joe Biden, but I feel that the threat is existential, and so I'm going to support him. I'm a conservative, right? She's a woman who's about 30 years old, if that. Bill Barr, I mean, have some courage here.
Wow. So she thinks that conservatives who support Donald Trump are only doing so because he might die. Now I've heard it all, okay? No, you know what? They're supporting him, Jen, because regardless of whether or not they like him or don't like him, they recognize that the guy gets stuff done and that the guy is actually smart on policy, and that actually we had a success of a country when you had him at the helm. Right now, who's at the helm? I mean, you tell me. Because Joe Biden doesn't know what he stands for. On the one hand, he's like, okay, I'm Mr. Israel. And then all of a sudden the kids go wild. And so he's got to tame that. And he goes missing, right? For weeks, all of these protests are happening. He won't even comment on it. Think about that. And then issues like the border. I've played you this sound in the past. I mean, he's like, hey, you know what? Everybody should come here. There was that debate that happened in 2020, Democrat debate. And he actually came right out and said, I would hold up a welcome sign. In other words, he wanted people seeking asylum here in the U.S. Ask yourself about the reasons for that one. Well, he got it. He held up that welcome sign and they came in droves. And now all of a sudden it's a political disaster for him. So Reuters reporting, at this moment, we are going to get news tomorrow of a new amendment. They're changing how you apply for asylum at the U.S.-Mexico border because you see, voters don't like this, but he can't actually stick to anything. If he believed in the open borders, then by all means, you know what? You believe in it, go for it, buddy. I mean, the American people will vote you out. But if you want that, then you should push that. See, the difference between Biden and Donald Trump is Trump actually has some convictions and he stays by those and sticks to the convictions. Whereas Biden's like, whatever which way the wind blows. He doesn't stand for anything. Consider what he said. We've got it. See, Drew's like a magician. He found that 2020 clip. He knows what I'm thinking. I want to play this for you. Way to go, Drew. Let's see Joe Biden tell us how we need to just take all.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
Okay. Well, hey, buddy, if you really believe that, then why are you freaking out right now? Why are you going to change the rule right now? Why? Oh, you realized it doesn't play in Peoria. Well, Donald Trump at least has always stood for what he has stood for. Like we did this the other day. Go and check out this segment. I talked about sort of vintage MAGA because it's a great segment of him from years ago talking about how we need to think about putting America first. He didn't say it in so many words, but I mean, he was very clear. He's been clear over the years that we need to put ourselves and our economy first. And that's one of the reasons he took such a position on the border. Joe Biden, I guess he's just looking at the polls. Well, do you really want somebody governing the country that just looks at the polls? Don't you want somebody who's got a little bit of spine? That the current president does not have. And so when Jen Psaki wonders why Republicans are supporting Donald Trump, Republicans in high positions of power, I'm going to tell her this because they're not fools like the rest of you, okay? They know what works and they know that we need to keep the country safe and profitable so that there's the most opportunity for the most number of people. It's not that hard. Of course, if you think this way, she thinks, they think, the media thinks you're positively, absolutely stupid. I mean, you must be an idiot, right? If you actually think that Trump or any of Trump's policies are worthwhile at all. They look down on you. You're deplorable. You're a MAGA person, and MAGA people are bad. Even Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase at Davos this year said, okay, enough already. You got to stop alienating half the population that voted for Donald Trump, that will vote for him again. You think they're all dumb? There's a lot of smart people in the Republican Party. And actually, I would argue, I have my bias, but we tend to be a little bit smarter than those folks on the left. We're also realists. We're practical. And we want to see the most opportunity for everyone.